Oh, where's my oors at? How are we doing tonight, guys? What do you want to cover this stream? I don't fucking know. What do you want to cover, dude? See that the U.S. abstained from voting in the UN resolution for a ceasefire in Gaza. Why do you think that is? I don't know. Did you read it? Did you read an article on it? Why do they say? Thoughts on the Dr. Mike COVID disinfo video? I haven't seen it yet. This Dr. Mike? The uncomfortable truth of what really happened with COVID.
That's when I really felt that it wasn't just the Trump administration. It was the Biden administration, too, that had a political agenda because vaccines were a good story. We were trying to do something. We were trying to save lives.
Dr. Paul Offit is the director of the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital in Philadelphia, as well as a professor of vaccinology and pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania. He is a co-inventor of the rotavirus vaccine and a member of the FDA's Vaccine Advisory Committee, meaning he was part of the team that gave the FDA a formal recommendation to approve the vaccine for COVID-19. He's one of the world's biggest experts on vaccines, and boy, does he have some opinions. He's publishing a new book called Tell Me When It's Over that details what mistakes were made by both the Trump and Biden administration as it relates to COVID, how terribly broken our medical mass communication is, and the clear value of being transparent and honest to the general public as scientists. All that and so much more as we welcome Dr. Paul Offit to the Checkup Podcast. Dr. Opp,
Damn, bro. These conservatives always say that they can laugh more and they can joke and, you know, they can deal with satire and shit. But as soon as, so the Babylon Bee, from what I've seen, like 99% of their stuff is making fun of people on the left or trans people or whatever the fuck. It's like almost all of it. But anytime they like make fun of people on the right, people get so fucking mad about it. Holy shit. What were you hoping to accomplish with this one? My God. I think it's true with Stone Toss as well. Whenever Stone Toss makes fun of people on the right or makes fun of Nazis or whatever, on Twitter, his whole fan base like fucking revolts. Here's a short regarding the Dr. Mike video to give you an idea. Why would I want a short on a video I'm about to watch?
do you think we have overestimated the death rate or the death count of COVID by saying died from versus died with?
No doubt about it. I mean, there's studies that have shown that, actually. So I think that is true. And ultimately, the one of the major epidemiological societies said stop testing people routinely who come into the hospital for that reason. Those were often counted as COVID admissions.
The question is, will we ever know, or maybe you know now, how much of that was misrepresented, or do we have a theory into how much of that was misrepresented?
I don't know. I think I'd like to think we will know. I think we do suffer from not having a national health system in terms of being able to.
For somebody this high up, assuming this guy's a leading whatever, so here, I'll let you in on a little trick, okay? I'm going to let you in on a little trick of the debate trade. Whenever somebody says studies say, you should always be a little suspect. Like, well, which studies? Now, depending on who I'm debating, and even for myself, I don't typically expect people to be able to name them like offhand. But I think if you're going on as an expert and you're going to bring up, so like when I did the red pill debates with Rollo and Michael, if I'm bringing up a study, I've got like the published date, the journal, the author, and then we're going to talk about the study. It was always very scary when somebody makes a big claim, but then they don't have the name of the, like, what study are we referencing here? Because my understanding for COVID stuff is that, I thought that the current, I thought the current guess was that we were probably undercounting deaths because the excess mortality was so high, and that people try to use excess mortality more than anything else to try to get an accurate gauge of where the actual death was coming from. So to say that it's actually gone the other direction, which is possible, maybe there's another way to account for excess mortality, or maybe something else is explaining it. It's possible, but also I don't know why I'm going off a fucking short. Maybe he gets into more detail here. I guess we'll see.
But since we last spoke, there's been a lot of developments happening, both with the COVID-19 pandemic, with other vaccines, with measles outbreaks, with, frankly, a complete loss of trust in our institutions. Both the FDA, the CDC has faced large distrust from the general public. Where do you think this is all stemming from?
I think COVID was, regarding trust, a major step backwards. It wouldn't be what I would have guessed. I mean, if you look at the way this played out early on, you had a virus that raised its head in Wuhan, China in late 2019. Within a month, we had isolated that virus and sequenced it so we could make a vaccine. And then using a technology that we had never used to make a vaccine before, which there was no previous experience, in 11 months, we had done 2 large clinical trials, the size of any typical adult or pediatric vaccine trial, to show that the vaccine was clearly effective and safe. And then we started immunizing people, 1 million people a day, 2 million people a day, 3 million people a day. By July of 2021, we had immunized 70% of the US population. I think that year and a half was the greatest medical or scientific achievement in my lifetime. Remarkable. A virus that had unusual clinical and biological characteristics, which you're meeting or trying to defeat with a technology you had never used before, and it worked, and we mass vaccinated adults in a country that doesn't really have a system to mass vaccinate adults. And then we hit a wall. I mean, 30% of this country refused to get vaccinated. They didn't believe us. They didn't trust us, so much so that 300,000 people estimated died unnecessarily, chose to die, chose not to vaccinate themselves or their families. Why? I mean, what happened? And I think there was a few things. I think one was just a general sort of anti-institutional, anti-federal government backlash, which includes, the Department of Justice as well as the FDA, CDC, et cetera.
Yep.
Second is, I think, the enormous ability to get misinformation and disinformation out there, more so than ever before. I think there's a group called the Centers for Countering Digital Hate that put out a list of 12 persons or groups that they called the Disinformation Dozen. They were much better funded and much more able to get information out there. And then third, I think, is the we learn as we go. We do. I mean, there's not anybody who commented on this, including me, who didn't get this wrong at some point regarding the vaccine or the disease. And that learning curve is uncomfortable, and it's invariably associated with a human price. And that was all occurring while we were mandating the vaccine. So you're mandating a vaccine about which you don't know everything, because you never know everything. The question always when you mandate is, do you know enough? And I think all of that just leaned into this libertarian left hook that created an enormous amount of distrust.
Have you looked into the P. Diddy? I don't know anything about P. Diddy or any of that stuff. I saw I got rated today, but I have no idea about anything. I don't know anything about it.
Do you feel, and this is something I personally felt, that the big agencies, the CDCs, the FDAs, not missed an opportunity, but more so dropped the ball when it comes to communicating imperfect knowledge? Like when I was making my videos early on about COVID-19, I stressed that when I'm saying right now masks aren't mandatory for everybody, it's saying it right now, with based on the information we have now, as opposed to, I remember the Surgeon General at the time taking pictures or making jokes on an airplane. Why are people wearing masks? We're not even recommending masks. And that came to bite him afterwards when he was recommending masks for everybody. So do you think the CDC and the FDA warrant some backlash or some changes that need to be made within those organizations in terms of their mass communication strategies?
Yeah, I think they should make it very clear. Right?
No idea at Destiny Lemeo. Candace broke it down for you. Candace broke down an insane fucking conspiracy theory that I seriously doubt will have any legs to it whatsoever. I don't know anything about the Diddy stuff or the raid or what the fuck is going on or whatever, but since QAnon, maybe about a decade, there is right around the corner, there's going to be a massive pedo blackmail conspiracy ring or whatever, okay? Maybe P. Diddy will be the one that is finally it. Probably not. It wasn't the Clintons. It wasn't the Epstein stuff. I doubt it's going to be the P. Diddy stuff. But hey, who knows? We'll see.
Right from the beginning, this is what we know now. Yeah. This is what we think we know now. Here is SARS-1, which raised its head in 2002, that killed no people in the United States, that only caused serious infection. And so you knew who was contagious because there was no asymptomatic spread. MERS, 10 years later, 2012, same story. Nobody died in the United States from that pandemic potential virus. And so I think we initially likened this virus to that we thought that it was really just going to be people who had serious disease. Wrong. There was asymptomatic spread, and that knowledge came a little late. And so, yeah, I think what we should do is when we get it wrong, and we get it wrong. I mean, we got it wrong, I think, certainly with regard to the bivalent vaccine, which we can talk about if you want. Yeah. But it's okay to explain it. Just explain it and say, this is what we thought at the time, we were wrong. So we've learned from that, and so now we've made this adjustment.
Red861, thanks for the 5 gifted subs, buddy.
And you're going to have people who will say, see, they got it wrong. I don't trust anything they say anymore. But I think there is a decent percentage of the public.
How is it not Epstein? Because people have this idea that Epstein had this huge ring of extremely powerful people that he was getting to fuck children and was blackmailing them. And there was some huge blackmail pedo ring or whatever. I don't know if a single other person has been indicted, or if there's even credible evidence that like a single other high profile person was fucking kids. Except for maybe that Prince Harry William guy. I don't even know if that was true. Like all of these massive conspiracies, maybe because a lot of you conservative people like secretly want to fuck kids, and so like if other powerful people fuck kids, it makes you feel closer to them, since the only road you're going to be to being similar to those people is actually like fucking your children or fucking other young people. But people that are like obsessed with seeing like pedo fucking conspiracy rings everywhere, it's fucking weird. If there's like actually like evidence for it, but yeah, I'll see it. It'll be interesting. But I mean, it's the boy who cried, kitty fucker, when you scream every single time you see something. Clinton, part of the pedo ring. Hillary, part of the pedo ring. Fucking QAnon, there's the pedo ring. Oh my God, the Jews are part of the pedo ring. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I just don't give a fuck anymore. Show me some hard evidence. The Epstein stuff wasn't it.
They will appreciate that humility.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that had we been a little bit more transparent with our reasoning, and I'm curious your take on this as not just a doctor, but a scientist, when we are communicating to the general public. I felt like the CDC does this thing where...
Why do people act like this after being humiliated from Pizzagate? Because conservatives have no shame. They don't feel humiliation. They go from one conspiracy theory to the next, and then they try to rewrite the prior ones to pretend that it actually was correct or that it ended up being correct, and then they just hop to the next thing.
They think they can say something that's not 100% accurate, but they think it's the right decision for us, so they'll still say it. Do you think that's ever appropriate by a large agency?
No. No, I think...
You know what I'm saying, though, right?
Right.
Where they say this will prevent all cases of COVID in regards to the vaccine.
I think the mistake that was made was that...
Wait, hold on.
So I think that had we been a little bit more transparent with our reasoning, and I'm curious your take on this as not just a doctor, but a scientist, when we are communicating to the general public, I felt like the CDC does this thing where they think they can say something that's not 100% accurate, but they think it's the right decision for us, so they'll still say it. Do you think that's ever appropriate by a large agency?
No. No, I think...
Do you know what I'm saying, though, right?
Right.
Where they say this will prevent all cases of COVID in regards to the vaccine.
I think
when did the CDC ever make this statement? I can't tell if these guys are getting mind fucked into another reality. Like, I'm so glad Hutch brought up that example so I don't get fucking mind fucked into this reality that anybody thought every vaccine was the same. It wasn't. There was such a big difference between the mRNA vaccines and Johnson & Johnson. There were even people that would fight over the Pfizer and Moderna. None of this would have made sense if people thought that they were 100%. Nobody credible thought that. The CDC would correct statements. We literally saw in that one quote that we chased down where the CDC would come out and correct statements when a spokesperson would speak too strongly, saying, oh, we think this will prevent transmissions. And the CDC would be like, no, we don't think that. Those are the guidelines. That's not true.
Mistake that was made was that they knew that there was a solid 30% of the public that wasn't getting vaccinated. And in that first year, 2021, you were 12 times more likely to be hospitalized and 12 times more likely to die if you hadn't been vaccinated. The following year, it was about 6 times more likely. But they were desperate to try and figure out how to convince people to get vaccinated. And so I think they tended to say statements that were not exactly right. They were extreme.
Well, they became used car salesmen to some degree, right? Because they were overpromising.
There was pedophile and a lot of rich people were closely involved with Epstein. Just because there isn't hard evidence doesn't mean it should be completely dismissed. If there were the same level of accusations against Biden as there were against Trump, when it comes to like being on Epstein's fucking fly list, on him like running the pageants with the young girls, on him being on a tape talking about how he could fucking rape women with his fucking grab them by the fucking pussy and how he could do it because he's a celebrity, you guys would be losing your fucking minds. I'm sorry, but like conservative, you could literally have direct eyewitness testimony to somebody fucking a kid and I wouldn't fucking believe you at this point if you're a conservative. I don't even know if you know what it looks like. I don't know if you can actually interpret anything in the world outside of a political hack lens. Like I think if you saw Trump fucking a 9-year-old girl, you give him a big thumbs up and you walk on. You've lost all credibility. Like if a conservative is going to make a claim, I need to see hard fucking evidence for it. I'm sorry, but a picture with somebody and then your bullshit conspiracy theories is not enough anymore, and it shouldn't be. You should have no credibility, like in the entire fucking world. You've been wrong too many times on too many different things across too many subjects for me to ever take it in and you say it basically, well, isn't there a possibility of something weird happening here? I don't know. When you talk about Kushner, when you talk about fucking Hunter Biden, I'll take you fucking seriously. Okay? When you start talking about sexual harassment claims or whatever, or weird shit with fucking Trump, who's literally on tape admitting to grabbing women non-consensually or whatever, rather than Biden because you've got pictures of him standing behind kids smelling their hair, I'll take you seriously. But until then, please eat soap. And by soap, I mean bleach.
Some things
are not exactly right. They were extreme.
Well, they became used car salesmen to some degree, right? Because they were overpromising some things. And I always feel like that's wrong because maybe in the short term, that'll get you your goals. But long term, I feel like that's going to ultimately end up setting you back because you lose that trust. And that trust is harder to earn back than maybe to get a few extra percentage points of people vaccinated. So that's one thing that I've even talked about it with Dr. Fauci on this channel, that how do we communicate this in a way where we're saying that we're functioning in a space where we don't have all the answers, that the technology is new, and at the same time, it's very well tested. Like those two thoughts seem like they're almost paradoxical in nature, that this is a new technology, brand new, but it's also very well tested. Because to the general public, when they hear new technology, they're like, do I want to give this to myself? Do I want to give this to my children? That's a natural thought to have. But this is actually one of probably the most tested vaccine in the history of all vaccines. And yet, trust is still hard to be earned here.
It's the opposite, really, in many ways, of what I would have guessed. I mean, so here you have a virus that clearly was killing people right in front of you. There was no denying the nature of this pandemic. I mean, you'll have anti-vaccine activists that will occasionally have said, show me a pandemic, give me a pandemic, and then I'll understand vaccine mandates. Okay, well, this was a clear pandemic.
Right.
And now you had to take it out. The vaccine dramatically decreased your chances of being hospitalized or dying. There was no denying that. Nonetheless, people denied it. And I think that was remarkable. And I do think, I mean, being on the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee, it was a pretty nerve-wracking job back in December of 2020 when we looked at those two vaccines. Because you're looking, although the trials were big, 40,000, 20,000, or 40,000, 30,000, that was placebo-controlled. So 20,000 people had gotten Pfizer's vaccine, 15,000 people had gotten Moderna's vaccine, that's 35,000 people who'd been vaccinated. But you were about to make a recommendation for hundreds of millions of people. You can assume the other shoe was going to drop. As you vaccinate many more people, there's going to be a safety issue that you didn't know about. It has to be true. The only question was how rare and how bad. But the thing that I think was confusing to people initially, and we did a terrible job, which we're still paying for at the beginning, was if you looked at the trials, the Pfizer and Moderna trials, those vaccines were roughly 95% effective against mild, moderate, or severe disease. Wow, this is a short incubation period mucosal infection. 95% effective against mild disease? I mean, what short incubation period mucosal infection can claim that? Yeah. With influenza being the best example. So 6 months later, there had to be 6 studies at that point showing that protection against severe disease was holding up, still in the 90% range, good, but protection against mild disease had faded to 50%. Exactly what you would expect, because protection against mild disease is mediated by circulating antibodies in your circulation at the time of exposure, and those fade. Always true. But when there was an outbreak in Provincetown, Massachusetts, thousands of men get together, celebrate the July 4th holiday, 80% are vaccinated. Nonetheless, there's an outbreak of COVID. 346 men who were vaccinated got COVID. 4 were hospitalized, so hospitalization rate of 1.2%. Great, that's the vaccine working well. The other 342 had mild or asymptomatic infection, which was labeled by the CDC breakthrough infections. That was the headline on their morbidity and mortality weekly report. Breakthrough infections. Bad word. Yep. Breakthrough means failure. This wasn't a failure. This was a success. I remember I was on CNN. I remember the segment before mine when I was on talking about Brett Kavanaugh. This is like July, August 2021. who was, as part of a routine screening to get into the Supreme Court chamber, was found to be positive. He had an asymptomatic infection. If you looked at the way that was carried on the media, you thought the man was fighting for his life.
Yeah.
I mean, Lindsey Graham at the time, who, like all of us at that time, had 2 doses of the vaccine, had a mild 2-day, 3-day illness with sinusitis. He said, quote, "This would have been much worse if I hadn't been vaccinated." Right. Lindsey Graham got it right.
And yet, we're still fighting that messaging even to this day with the new boosters.
No, exactly right. You look at Ron DeSantis in recent, when he was still running for president, on his stump speeches, he would say, he would look at the crowd, he would go, the CDC told us this vaccine was going to work, but it didn't, did it? Because what happened was then in 2021, people who got their 2 doses of vaccine then suffered a mild infection say, the CDC lied to me. They told me this was going to protect me and it didn't. Because the term breakthrough was a bad, they should have made it very clear, we should have made it very clear.
That it was against severe infection.
Right. What's the goal of this vaccine? What can you expect from this vaccine? You're going to get mild infection, and this remains true. You're going to get mild infection again and again and again, as is true for flu, as is true for other winter respiratory viruses.
Yeah, even the flu vaccine, 30, 40% effectiveness in preventing infection, but the hospitalization rate, the death rate in high-risk populations, that's where the value for these vaccines come from.
Exactly.
But I feel like we've lost that plot even now.
I agree.
As we're talking about boosters, I recently got an opportunity to speak with the new CDC director, and I was like, I need to tread carefully here because I'm not really recommending universal booster, COVID-19 booster, and that interview didn't end up happening probably because of that. Because
Wait, she said that, or
no,
you said
I'm
that?
saying
I got
that.
it, yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that my stance was clear before I went into the interview. And it seems like it's still a universal recommendation. And you actually wrote an article about this in JAMA, right, I believe, where you said that, hey, the way we're talking about this booster may not be as accurate and can lead to more distrust.
Right. The original language was boosting. We would have a yearly booster. So we would have when we moved away from the Wuhan 1 strain, the ancestral strain, and in 2022 we moved to the bivalent vaccine, and then 2023, 2024 we moved to another a different Omicron variant. The language originally was boosting. And that morphed to essentially a universal recommendation for everyone over 6 months of age as a campaign. So we went from booster to the 2023-2024 COVID campaign, like flu. So we've likened it to flu, which is to say everybody over 6 months of age. Now, the goal of this vaccine is to keep people out of the hospital and to keep them from dying. So then the critical question is who's getting hospitalized and who's dying? And the answer to that question is high-risk groups, people who are elderly, or Rochelle Walensky, God bless her, uses the term elderly, which I appreciate because by that she meant over 75, so I'm still good, or people who have high-risk medical conditions like chronic lung disease, heart disease, obesity, diabetes, people who are pregnant, and people who are immune compromised, because that's who's getting hospitalized. So let's target them. And that's what every other country does. That's with the exception of Canada. Every other country, European countries, Scandinavian countries, World Health Organization makes this recommendation, Australia, everybody says target high-risk groups. And I think where they're coming from, because I actually talked to Dr. Fauci about this particular issue. I asked him the question, do you think it makes sense to target these high-risk groups? And his feeling was, and he may be right on this, I don't know, it's a testable hypothesis, but he said, when you give a nuanced message like that, it's a garbled message, you're much more likely to be able to convince those high-risk groups to get it
Better
if you recommend it for
penetrance
everybody.
okay.
But first of all, I'm not sure that's true. And secondly, why vaccinate healthy 16 to 17-year-olds if they're not really benefiting in the way you think they need to benefit? Because what you're doing there for an otherwise healthy young person, and I'm defining young, by the way, as less than 75, just so we're clear, it's low risk, low benefit. I mean, you'll buy yourself 3 to 6 months of decreased risk of getting a mild infection. That's what you do, and then you're right back to where you were in terms of preventing mild infection. That's not a public health strategy. The goal is to keep people out of the hospital, and so you could also go, well, let's just vaccinate everybody all the time to decrease the general transmission, which will also protect those people. But we're well beyond that. People haven't accepted that, nor should they. I don't think a healthy 16-year-old should get another dose of vaccine, assuming they've had 3 doses or 2 doses of a natural infection.
Do you think the other people on these committees that are putting forth these recommendations share the sentiment that Dr. Fauci has in saying that if we put out a mixed message, it won't land as well and we'll have less uptake?
Well, that seems to be the belief, but it is a testable hypothesis. I mean, I'd like to see that. I mean, what kind of messaging really convinces those groups to get vaccinated, because they're the ones who are suffering this. They're the ones we need to target. They're the ones every other country targets. And yet, as happened to me, I mean, when you go on national television or interviewed, with national media groups, and then you say, I think we should target these groups, you're a bad guy. I mean, now you're off the bus. And regarding public health, you're on the bus, you're off the bus. And I think it's unfortunate. I guess. Here's what I would say. So I'm, although trained as a pediatrician, really spent about 25 years inoculating mice in a small concrete blocked windowless room at the Wisconsin Institute to try and understand rotaviruses. So I'm a rotavirus researcher, and was fortunate enough to be part of a team at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia that created the rotavirus vaccine Rototech. So that's really what I do. And when you do that, when you do science for a living, and you have a conclusion. So you do studies and you say, I think these 2 surface proteins are critical for inducing a protective immune response. And then you present it at a meeting. You want to be criticized. You want people to say, I didn't do the right controls. It's not robust. It's not internally consistent. You didn't do the right animal model, whatever. You want that criticism because that's how your science gets better. That does not work well in a public health venue. It doesn't. You are not encouraged to challenge the science behind a recommendation. But we should be encouraged. I think the public benefits from hearing that discussion.
Do you think that the general feedback you've gotten when you put out that more nuanced message has been positive, negative, or neutral?
Both. I mean, I think certainly there are people who appreciate what they view as you being honest. They are. But on the other hand, the minute you sort of counter what is seen as a public health message, I got an email from a longtime anti-vaccine activist who said, I have been praying for you and your family for years, and now my prayers have been answered.
Oh, my God.
And I was asked to be on Newsmax. That's when you know you're really getting your message out there. Yeah.
But do you think that the reason why this feedback is happening the way that it is, it's politically leaning? So there's a view by some committees that if you don't give 100% support to the vaccine, you point out its flaws or nuances, like you're pointing out of maybe not everyone needs the booster, that then you're somehow harming their political messaging or weakening their political cause?
So we all want the same thing. We want a healthy population. We don't want people to suffer and die from this virus anymore. So the question is, what's the best way to do that? What's the best way to convince people to get them?
What would it take for you to change your stance on forced vaccinations? Like on all of them, that none of them should be forced? I don't necessarily think I don't think I'm 100% in favor of any forced vaccination. I like if we provide a boat and we just like ship these people off and like kick them out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, you can do that, I guess, if you want instead, or go ship them all to an island somewhere. You go to Australia.
To trust you, and I think the feeling is that if you put something out there that's not right.
Pretty sure right now the only compulsory vaccinations you have in the United States are if you go to a public school. No.
The bivalent vaccine we can talk about if you want, but that vaccine was not advanced. It was a step to the side. It was no better than what we have, but it certainly was no worse. But it was sold as something better. And I think, so what do you do when you find that out? Or what do you do when you're trying to sort of target the people you think most likely need it? Just be honest. I just say the truth as you understand it, because I think when you don't do that, in the name of trying to help everybody, you lose some trust.
For sure. I think that it's almost scary to say that the government is trying to figure out the best way to convince us to get this thing done for our health, as opposed to just tell us the truth and allow us to decide, right? Because the whole principle of autonomy when we're being doctors in a room is to allow the patient to decide for themselves what the best choice is and inform them as accurately as possible. Imagine your own primary care doctor says, hey, I'm going to pitch you this treatment in a way that I think it's going to convince you best. I'd be like, I don't trust this doctor at all, right? Because the doctor is ultimately trying to get me to a place as opposed to telling me the truth and guiding me along that journey to make the best decision, right? It kind of becomes manipulative in that sense. So I get why folks are starting to turn, hearing that that's what's leading the decisions when it comes to boosters, vaccines, masks, et cetera. So I do sympathize in that regard.
Sure, but I think one thing that makes this harder is this is a contagious disease.
Yep.
So although the cry often from those who are choosing not to do this is bodily autonomy, personal freedom, let me make a decision that I think is best for myself and my family. It's a contagious disease. So you're making this decision for others. I mean, a choice not to get vaccinated. I mean, is it my right to catch and transmit a potentially fatal infection? And that's what makes this different. I mean, if you step on a rusty nail, you go to the doctor's office, they want to give you a tetanus vaccine, and you say, no thanks, no one's going to catch tetanus from you. It's not a contagious disease. This is. And so it's much more of a public health issue. We're seeing that now with measles, which was your original question. I mean, I think the erosion in trust that you're seeing as a consequence of COVID vaccination has meant that now roughly 35% of American parents, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation survey, question whether we really need school mandates. Not saying that they don't think we should have them at all, but they're questioning whether we really need them. You have now a paper that was published in November, Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report from CDC, showing that the percentage of kindergartners whose parents are choosing non-medical exemptions has clearly increased. And with that, you're seeing a decrease in vaccination rates. And the first disease to come back is always measles. It's the canary in the coal mine. It's the most contagious infectious disease. And when you see that come back, that's when you know you're having a fraying of immunization rates. A virus we eliminated from this country by the year 2000, which is remarkable that we could do that, and it's come back. And I mean, we're all, I guess, scarred by our past experiences. Mine is that I lived through the 1991 Philadelphia measles epidemic, where 1,400 kids had measles and 9 children died. I mean, that was a horrifying moment. People were scared to come into the city. We vaccinated down to 6 months of age. It was an awful, awful time. And I don't think people remember measles. I mean, when Jenny McCarthy gets on Oprah and says, as she does so eloquently, quote, I'll take the frickin' measles every time. It's not just that we largely eliminated measles. We've eliminated the memory of measles. People don't remember how sick that virus can make you.
Well, there's like these jokes that run around in the medical circles where it's an anti-vaccine advocate saying, why do we even vaccinate against disease? I don't see them anymore. Yeah, that's why. Because if you stop vaccinating, you'll start seeing them a lot more, and all of the negativity that comes with it from outcomes and death will happen. So that's why they don't see them. And once you don't have that fear directly in front of you, it's easy to think the other way.
Vaccines are a victim of their own success.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. In the idea that we are very public health focused these days, we sometimes do forget the individual at hand. And I see that happen even with my young residents that I'm training in my hospital, where like the idea of number needed to treat versus number needed to harm has kind of gone by the wayside in education. I feel like that's lost. And the idea that two people can come to the same medical decision, can come to a different medical decision and be both right for what's right for themselves, that can happen with non-communicable diseases, blood pressure, cholesterol medications. So someone can see the number needed to treat and say, well, odds are this isn't going to work for me, so I'm going to skip it because the side effects are really going to impact me. I don't want to take a medication. I'd rather try lifestyle factors. Great. But for communicable disease that you could spread to others and hurt others, it's different. And you actually talked about it in your book with Supreme Court rulings on this. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's been carried in our judicial system?
Right. So in 1905, there was a smallpox outbreak in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And so the Cambridge Board of Public Health insisted that everybody get a smallpox vaccine, which was developed in the late 1700s, early 1800s. So one person, a Lutheran minister from Cambridge, refused, and he refused to pay the fine. So that worked its way through a state Supreme Court, then ultimately up to the United States Supreme Court, where in the famous Jacobson v. Massachusetts ruling, it was ruled that in the interest of the public, in the interest of society, that the Cambridge Board of Public Health had the right to mandate vaccines. That was reaffirmed again 17 years later in 1922 when Rosalind Zuck, a high school student in Breckenridge, Texas, I think, Breckenridge High School, chose not to get a smallpox vaccine to go to school, and there wasn't a smallpox outbreak. But again, it was reaffirmed. So that's the question. I will say one thing that struck me in this, and I want to get back to sort of the general issue of, did we make a mistake by having sort of public health uber alles here? I mean, should we have really taken a step back and done what the AP, American Academy of Pediatrics, wanted us to do, which is not to close schools and work maybe more closely with businesses to try and figure out a better way to keep the economy going while still, being as safe as possible, if not absolutely safe. And we and I'm going to get back to this Philadelphia measles story, but so don't let me forget it because I'm older and I forget things.
Okay.
But what did we do in 2020? I mean, we isolated, quarantined, masked, tests, shut down schools, closed businesses, restricted travel.
Why don't you research the whole pandemic like you did Israel-Palestine? I feel like if you did, you'd reach a different conclusion. Unlikely. The issue is that regardless of what you think about what should have happened or what the policy should have been, the issue is that no matter what your conclusion is, you're 99% you're a fucking moron. That's the issue. There are a lot of good reasons why you should or shouldn't vaccinate somebody, why you should or shouldn't do lockdowns, why you should or shouldn't do whatever. But the problem is your inability to honestly engage with anything that's happening. That's the issue. For instance, there is a legitimate argument to be had between should you be allowed to mandate that somebody inject their body with a medication to prevent somebody else from getting sick, okay? That's a fascinating argument. There's a ton of back and forth that you can have that is steeped in political theory, in epidemiological theory, in personal moral philosophy. There's so much that you could talk about here. But because you're so fucking retarded, the conversation isn't, do you have a right to mandate me get an injection so that I reduce my risk of getting somebody else sick? Instead, what you go is, actually, it's fake and nobody gets sick. And it's not even a big deal. Nobody's even getting that sick. You won't engage on that argument in any level. None of the arguments about vaccination, none of the arguments on lockdowns, none of the arguments on masking, none of the arguments on closing schools, none of these arguments can happen in the more interesting one, where there are a lot of interesting arguments, because there's nobody to have those arguments with, because you fucking retards are obsessed with trying to say that the disease didn't exist, and if it did exist, it was a bioweapon. If it was a bioweapon, it was also not harmful at the same time, and if it was harmful, it was only harmful to really old people, and actually it wasn't even that harmful to old people, and they didn't die, although if you did stick one old person, if you were Cuomo and you stuck an old person in a hospital, apparently they were a bioweapon that killed every single old person in the facility, and actually hospitals were never in trouble at all, and the vaccine was just to get 100% reduction of all diseases, even though they said flatten the curve, not destroy the curve. Like, there's no argument there. I don't think I would ever waste my time doing deep dive, like long-term research on the internet on vaccines, because I would kill myself if I had to have the arguments over and over again with 25 IQ people who are pretending to be 75 IQ people who are listening to 85 IQ people and then parroting their opinions back to me on Twitter. I would rather kill myself, okay? I will never, ever in my life engage in long-term on-stream research on that. I'd rather look up the conspiracies, learn them, so that when I talk to your retarded fuck idols, I can shit down their throat and then move to the next person. That's what I would do. Holy shit, I absolutely hate all of the conversations regarding all of this, okay? Because I've said this before, I've complained about this on like 10 different programs. There are so many good lockdowns and masking were debatably good. Closing schools for as long as they were was probably a horrible idea. Mandating vaccines was almost for sure a good idea for the first two, for the alpha and then the first variant, and then after that is questionable. Vaccine passports maybe didn't help. Not even sure if it was remotely worth the economic damage. None of those conversations can happen, because when you talk about lockdowns, you fucking retards go, actually keeping your distance from people and washing your hands doesn't actually fucking do anything. Which is like the most retarded fucking thing in the world. You can watch every single other communicable disease fall off the fucking face of the earth when we do lockdowns and masks, but you're gonna pretend like it doesn't impact anything? You don't think that sneezing on people has you live in a whole other fucking reality. Like, I swear to God, if Fauci came out and said that licking people's assholes was a horrible way to contract COVID-19, you guys would be sucking the shit out of each other. Like, that's how contrarian your brains are when any piece of information came out of the CDC. It's actually unfucking believable. But regardless, I will never, ever, ever do on-stream long-term research on this, because any possible conversation you could have about anything related to epidemiology is a minefield, okay? Is a minefield for your brain. And every step... I don't want to watch this anymore. Okay. Anyway. Isn't that basically what happened with the Jan 6 research? Yeah, but that's... Jan 6 is still like... January 6 is at least like a political issue. And I get people having strong political opinions about it, but the medical related shit just makes me want to kill myself. I'm good. What is this? Apparently this guy got exposed today. Oh, but I don't know who this guy is, and I don't think I care about it. Apparently he had like 6 different girlfriends. There you go. Fact-checking Al Jazeera drone strike vid. Oh, Ryan Macbeth did a video.
Did an Israeli drone strike some Palestinian civilians who were just walking home? This video came from Al Jazeera. I will link to the full video below on my Substack. Now, I don't think I can recut this for YouTube. I'm gonna try, but if you are a Substack subscriber, thank you for giving me $5 every month. It allows me to make content like this. Now, there are a couple of components to this video. I'm only going to show the first strike because the rest really has no educational value, and it is Al Jazeera's footage, so you have to be conscious of fair use and copyright. I'm going to show the video, and then I'll break it down using ICD 203, which is the gold standard in the intelligence community for evaluating probability. I'll also explain some of the targeting process. I personally worked on the software that kind of aids in the targeting process. Let's watch the video. Okay, I want to start with how Al Jazeera claims that this footage was recovered from an Israeli drone. Drones don't tend to store images on board unless we're talking about a small memory buffer that holds information in queue for transmission. The video feed and signals intelligence are usually broadcast immediately back to the command.
Is that actually true? That they wouldn't store any of the video footage on like an SD card or on a memory card or something? I guess maybe if you don't want it to be recovered by an enemy, maybe.
Post and the UAV pilots. If you're saving and capturing footage on board, you would almost certainly encrypt that footage. This is the military. They speak with encrypted radios, they communicate over encrypted networks, they encrypt video. So you might have maybe a 10-second buffer that's unencrypted and designed to hold data for transmission and processing. If you are sending it to a physical media, you might hold it in that buffer in case there's a signal drop or something, so you can send that data afterwards. And also, since encryption is fairly processor intensive, you might use that buffer to send that information to the encrypted side of your drive. But for the most part, you don't want to store unencrypted video on a drone for exactly what you see. The enemy could shoot that drone down and get the footage. So using ICD 203, I would say that getting footage from a shot down military drone is very unlikely.
Wow.
Now, let's take a look at the possibility that Israel would just attack Palestinians walking home with a drone strike. A weapon like a Hellfire missile costs about $150,000 a shot. That is like dropping a Mercedes G-Wagon on somebody just to kill them. You are not going to shoot civilians with a Hellfire for the lulz. Also note that before you shoot, you typically have to go through a targeting process, the kill chain. Find, fix, track, target, engage, assess. So we have to start by saying, why was this drone following these men? Well, a drone wouldn't be tracking a group of people if it didn't think they are worth targeting. A drone is a pretty important piece of ISR, or intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. There aren't enough drones or operators to just follow people for the heck of it unless that drone was specifically tasked with following random people to see if they were up to no good. Now, much was made of the fact that these subjects were unarmed. It doesn't matter because unarmed combatants are still combatants. Article 3 of the Geneva Convention defines what is and is not a combatant. And when it comes down to a military force, really only religious and medical personnel are considered non-combatants. Other than that, if you are wearing a uniform, you are a combatant whether you're armed or not. If you're well, a drone wouldn't be tracking a group of people if it didn't think they are worth targeting. A drone is a pretty important piece of ISR, or intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. There aren't enough drones or operators to just follow people for the heck of it unless that drone was specifically tasked with following random people to see if they were up to no good. Now, much was made of the fact that these subjects were unarmed. It doesn't matter because unarmed combatants are still combatants. Article 3 of the Geneva Convention defines what is and is not a combatant. And when it comes down to a military force, really only religious and medical personnel are considered non-combatants. Other
Oh, this is true. Okay, sorry.
than that, if you are wearing a uniform, you are a combatant, whether you're armed or not.
I thought he was saying like if you have a whole population of people, unless they're like a medical person or religious, they're a combatant. I'm like, what? No, civilians are civilian. But he means within armed forces. That is true. If a bunch of soldiers are walking around, you're free to blow them up. They don't have to have a gun. They don't have to be actively engaged in combat. That's bullshit. Every single thing that's being said about like, oh, can you shoot? I need to play a video game for a month. Oh fuck, I'm hitting my retard limit. I can only deal with so many bad arguments at a time. People walking around with guns or without guns doesn't prove anything. It doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter if you have a gun or not. You're an enemy soldier. Yeah, so people saying like, well, they didn't have guns, therefore it was bad, or they weren't in uniform. Hamas doesn't wear uniforms all the time. Like, what do you mean? We literally know this. Don't they say over and over again, like most of the people that came over through the fence, weren't in military garb? Like,
look at all the people on a command post. A lot of these guys are not armed. If they have anything in their hands, it's a keyboard and a ham sandwich, right? But they're still combatants if you fire a missile at that command center. Now, unless you are hors de combat, out of action due to illness or injury, you're actively trying to surrender, you're a lawful target. For people who are fighting and not in uniform, there's a rule for that as well. Civilians who take direct part in hostilities.
Oh, now here's the ultra edgy fucking argument. I don't know if I read this article on stream or not. I think this might be considered like up for debate right now. If the enemy is using civilians to shield a military objective, you can treat it as a military target, but you have to engage in a proportionality assessment, taking into account how many civilians are we going to kill for this particular military target. However, there was a concept that was brought up called voluntary human shields, to where if civilians voluntarily go up to their roofs and they're trying to shield a military objective, I think there's an argument to be made that you wouldn't consider that a human shield anymore. That would just be a civilian who's now a militant. They've taken part in this right here. Persons who take a direct part in hostilities, or actually might even be in the next one. Civilians who take a direct part in hostilities, that you might be able to count a, but I think this is a questionable. I think this is questionable right now. Okay, hold on. This disagrees with me. 1 second. Wait, who's publishing this? Do I give a fuck about what this thing says? International Review of the Red Cross. Okay, we do. This article examines the legal problems associated with human shields. The author begins by discussing the absolute nature of the prohibition on their use and goes on to consider the precautions to be observed by the party being attacked. A violation of the ban on use of human shields by the attacked party is not an act. A violation of the ban of human shields by the attacked party is not an act of perfidy, and does not release the attacker from his obligations, because human shields are civilians. They are not legitimate objects of attack, even when they're acting in a voluntary capacity, as they are not taking direct part in hostilities. Among the attacker's obligations to take precautions, the proportionality principle applies in the classic way, even in the case of... Oh, wait, hold on. Perfidy had to do when you dress up as, like... basically, when you're acting in good faith. So, you pretend to surrender, you dress up as civilians. I think you raise a truce flag, shit like this, I think, right? Yeah, okay. I wonder the article I read on this, because I've read that people will debate, I think it's debated right now for legitimate arguments. Oh, here, that if you have human shields that act in voluntary capacity. Let me see if I can find this article. I read a ton of articles off the... To me, this rule seems obviously unworkable when it's taken to its logical extent. Which one? Well, yeah, because I mean, I agree, right? Let's see, would be under international law, war crime. And before this doesn't load. Yeah, I mean, like if you have it, so if enough people use themselves as shields, you can't act. Well, I mean, it depends on the amount, I guess, yeah. Why is this not loading? Okay, well, fuck me, I guess. This was published in 2008. Control F, voluntary. I wonder what their commentary is on this. However, Iraq is by no means the only theater of conflict where this has been done. Other examples are the Afghan, Chechen, and Israeli-Palestinian conflicts, the conflict in the former Yugoslavia, and the conflict in Lebanon in summer 2006. The reality behind the human shield phenomenon is complex, as voluntary human shields also form a significant part of the picture. Oh, this paper seems like it deals a lot with seeing the Iraq War casualty numbers. It seems comparable to the casualties in Gaza. Maybe as time goes on. In international humanitarian law, everyone is either a civilian or a combatant. The person who is held and positioned in front of a military objective against his will can, of course, hardly be considered a combatant. However, the question does arise in connection with voluntary human shields. In some people's view, a person who deliberately places himself in front of a military objective in order to protect it from attack is a combatant. However, human shields do not fit the definition of a combatant, as set out either in Article 4 of the Third Geneva Convention or in Article 43 of Protocol 1. They do not belong to the armed forces of a party to a conflict, and even if they are persuaded by a party to the conflict to serve as human shields for its benefit, it's hard to imagine them belonging to an organization under a command responsible to that party. A fortiori, where they are volunteers, as in Iraq. Distinctive sign. I feel like I'm curious how they would respond to. They do not belong to the armed forces of a party to a conflict, and even if they are persuaded by a party to the conflict to serve as human shields for its benefit, it's hard to imagine them belonging to an organization under a command responsible to that party. What if you convince like a bunch of people with guns, like, hey, come join us and like fight for us? Would they still be considered civilians? Would you be able to make the case that voluntary human shields are not combatants and should be treated the same as involuntary? I can't think of anything other than mental illness to defend that. I feel like if you're a voluntary human shield, I wish I could remember what I read on this. Oh, it might have been this section here. Voluntary human shields. There is also a long-standing debate among LOAC experts over whether civilians who voluntarily shield military objectives need to be considered in the attacker's proportionality and precautions in attack assessments. The ICRC and many respected scholars believe they do not sacrifice their full protection as civilians through their actions. Whoops. I wonder if this references the paper we're reading right now, or the paper we have brought up. This was 2019. No, he links way more recent stuff. However, in my opinion, individuals who intentionally leverage their civilian status to impede the enemy's operations are directly participating in hostilities and therefore lose their protections from attack for such time as they participate. Okay, so this is his This is an argument that the author is making. And he's basing it around this customary international law. The distinction between involuntary and voluntary shields makes sense, for the latter act to deprive themselves of their low protections, whereas the former are being victimized. To the extent that voluntary shields can de facto cause the attacker to hesitate, or de jure render the attack disproportionate if they do not lose the civilian protections, make an attack impossible, it would seem clear that they are participating in the hostilities very directly. However, although attacks on direct participants technically are permissible under the law of armed conflict, Israel does not conduct them. Instead, the direct participation status of voluntary shields only affects the application of the proportion. Yeah, okay. Hold on, give me a second. I'm curious what the arguments in this, even though this is a little old, I'm curious what the arguments in this paper are for it. Civilian status generally determines protection to which he is entitled. However, the case of voluntary human shields does raise questions. The extent of the protection afforded to a civilian does vary depending on whether or not he takes direct part in hostilities. And we may also consider the extent to which acting as a voluntary human shield should be considered a crime, or could be considered a crime. Every civilian should enjoy general protection against the effects of hostilities and may not be an object of attack. The same, therefore, applies to human shields. However, this protection enjoyed by civilians goes hand in hand with the prohibition on taking direct part in hostilities. If civilians take direct part in hostilities, their protection ceases for such time as they do so, and they can be the object of a lawful attack. In the case of voluntary human shields, the question arises in the following terms. If we can consider that the volunteer is taking direct part in hostilities, he loses his protection as a civilian for as long as the state of affairs lasts. If captured, he could be prosecuted simply for having taken part in hostilities. If we understand the real risks run by a voluntary human shield, we must therefore determine whether his acts can be regarded as taking direct part in hostilities. At the same time, it may be interesting to examine the phenomenon of voluntary human shields in light of the fact that the use of human shields is categorized as a war crime. Difficulty to consider acting as a voluntary human shield as tantamount to... Okay. Experts are very divided on the question whether or not acting as a voluntary human shield is tantamount to taking direct part in hostilities. Nevertheless, there are a number of jurists who do take the view that acting as a voluntary human shield, that is derivative. Yeah, I'm curious, how would the author argue against that? Because it seems like you're literally taking part in trying to gain a military advantage. Falseness of voluntary human shields leads to protection. According to the analysis, human shields are acting in exactly the same way as anti-aircraft defense systems, only more effectively. The High Court of Justice in Israel took a similar position in a recent judgment on targeted killings of terrorists, in which it examined the question whether the law is regarding civilians serving as a human shield. The court found that if they do so of their own free will, out of support for the terrorist organization, they should be seen as persons taking direct part in the hostilities. Others do not share this view, claiming that would be incorrect to state that people who place themselves voluntarily in front of a legitimate target are taking direct part in hostilities. Hostile acts do not necessarily involve these attacks. Also consider that voluntary human shields business. However, hostile acts and taking direct part in hostilities can be defined as acts which by their nature and purpose are intended to cause actual harm to the personnel and equipment of the armed forces of the enemy. If we adopt this definition of taking direct part in hostilities, the actions of the voluntary human shields do not fit in very well. The voluntary human shield does not strike the enemy forces, he merely protects, by a passive attitude, the personnel or hardware of his own armed forces. Hostile acts and taking direct part in hostilities can be defined as acts which by their nature and purpose are intended to cause actual harm to the personnel and equipment of the armed forces. I wonder, when they say can be defined, I'm guessing the author is using their own definition here. I can imagine like certain types of defense systems that don't harm like personnel or equipment of the armed forces that would clearly, like what if you had like a massive active camouflaging system? Like you're not really harming the enemy and you're not harming their weapons, but I feel like that would still be considered taking direct part in hostilities. I feel like this definition is not only unnecessarily restricted. I think we can imagine I feel like we can imagine offensive things, or rather things that are part of hostilities that wouldn't, or that would easily fit under this umbrella. If we adopt this definition of direct hostility, the actual human shields do not fit very well. I wonder if they talk about other definitions. One could extrapolate and say that he strikes the enemy forces indirectly, since by protecting his own military hardware and personnel, he preserves them and enables them to strike the enemy. However, this interpretation does not square with the use of the word actual. And still less with the commentaries, which describe direct participation in hostilities as acts that present an immediate threat to the adverse party. Even if it could be said that human shields present a threat to the adverse party because they protect military targets that themselves present such a threat, this threat is not immediate. Although it could certainly contribute to a state's war capabilities, the human shield's participation is only indirect. The voluntary human shield cannot therefore be regarded as taking direct part in hostilities. What if you had like a state? What if you had a state and they were like, okay, well, we're going to like decommission 20% of our military and make them civilians, and they're just going to like follow us around as human shields. And they do it like voluntarily. They're like, yeah, just pay me, sign me up, like let's fucking do it. Although at that point you'd be employed directly by the military forces, but we could imagine like more clever schemes to have civilians act. If voluntary human shields shouldn't get protections, why should medical personnel? Because once a person has been like removed from combat, I think we've decided that everybody's entitled to medical treatment and recovery and everything. However, the degree of actualness or immediacy a threat must possess in order to count as direct part in hostilities can be difficult to define. The High Court of Justice of Israel has taken the view that the direct character of the part taken should not be narrowed merely to the person committing the physical act of attack. Those who have sent him as well take direct part. The same goes for the person who decided upon the act of the person who planned it. This notwithstanding, direct participation in hostilities implies a direct causal relationship between the actively engaged in and the harm done in such a way, however, to determine the intensity required to create this causal relationship. It would seem important not to take too broad an approach, to interpret it too loosely, but lead to voluntary human shields easily being placed on the same footing as people taking direct part in hostilities, which would mean, as some experts pointed out, that they could be attacked during their preparation, namely when moving towards the military objective to be shielded by their presence. There is, however, no military necessity to attack them when they are not protecting a military target. Nor is there any point in targeting the human shield himself. In addition to the military target he's trying to protect, if the causal relationship is stretched too far, just about anything could be seen as taking direct part in hostilities, including the attitude of the general civilian population, because by undermining the morale of the population, it is possible to weaken its allegiance to the state, and hence the state itself. In that case, the fundamental principle of distinction would disappear and would be given carte blanche to total war. Finally, as some experts point out, the causal relationship should not be read too broadly because the law must be applicable on the ground. Huh. Maybe. At all events, we can say that the ex-voluntary human shields not square easily with what we consider as taking direct part in hostilities. Moreover, to argue the contrary seems utterly self-defeating. The whole point of human shields is that their civilian status, which makes them unattackable, is to protect a military objective. However, if they were taking direct part in hostilities, they could themselves be an object of attack. I thought of this. This is actually, would be the funniest argument against it is a voluntary human shield. You could argue that a voluntary human shield is self-defeating or is contradictory, because if you volunteer to be a human shield and that makes you a combatant, you're no longer a human shield. So what would the point be? Although you could argue that international law and the fact that human shields can be on military objectives is a little bit self-defeating as well. But however, they were taking direct part in hostilities that themselves could be the object of act. Their presence in front of a military target would therefore be entirely pointless in that case. No one would voluntarily position himself in front of a potential target. Well, but wouldn't you argue, isn't this the goal? The whole point of human shields is that their civilian status, That which makes them unattackable is used to protect a military objective. However, if they were taking direct part in hostilities, they could themselves be an object of attack. Their presence in front of a military target would therefore be entirely pointless. In that case, no one would voluntarily position himself in front of a potential target. Isn't that the goal? If we say like, okay, well, if you're a voluntary shield, at that point you're militant, you could be attacked, well, then no one will do it, right? At the same time, one can have the feeling that from the point of view of direct participation in hostilities, there are voluntary human shields, voluntary human shields. Wait, what? At the same time, one can have the feeling that from the point of view of direct participation in hostilities, there are voluntary human shields and voluntary human shields. Wait, am I having a stroke? Is this the same thing? There seems to be a little common ground between a human shield on the roof of a missile launching pad and, to take an example cited by an expert, a Somali woman who walked across the street holding her arms up and hiding behind her one or two fighters who would fire their weapons from behind her flowing white gown. Unnecessary to define exactly the line. Huh. Okay, interesting. Okay, where were we? Oh, sorry.
There's a rule for that as well. Civilians who take direct part in hostilities can be considered combatants. So whether these people were Hamas or Islamic Jihad or just civilians who were taking part in the hostilities but dropped their weapons and tried to walk away nonchalantly, they could still be valid targets. And one of the other problems is that no Palestinians have worn a uniform since October 7th, which you can assume is a strategy.
Wait, is that true? Hamas doesn't wear any uniform since October 7th? Is there an article or anything on that?
Since October 7th, which you can assume is a strategy. If they get killed in a drone strike or a bombing, Hamas can say that Israel is targeting civilians. And since most people have never done ISR, which again means intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, most people have never done targeting or weaponeering, people fall for it because it sure looks like a bunch of unarmed dudes were just attacked. But when you think about it, just the fact that Israel decided to track these guys and strike them lets me know that Israel was using a brigade.
Wait, I don't even, if that's true, that's unbelievable. I can't believe I don't know that. That's such an unbelievable talking point. Does Hamas wear uniforms since October 7th? Is there anything talking about this? I feel like if this was a thing, I feel like I'd be hearing about this so much more. Explainer. Are Israel Hamas committing war crimes in Gaza? Members of Hamas's armed wing rarely, if ever, wear uniforms or identify themselves in public, and they go underground as soon as hostilities begin, along with the political leadership. The vast majority of Hamas fighters are not involved in fighting, which means they aren't supposed to be targeted. Wait. Oh. Why would they wear a uniform, though? I don't know. In all those videos that Hamas releases, none of them wear any kinds of uniform ever.
Or a division or even a theater level asset. So Israel decided to vector one of its important and expensive and rare ISR drone assets at these particular dudes instead of at somebody else. These dudes could have been Hamas. They could have been one of the 9 other factions in Gaza. We don't know. But we do know that since a drone is such a precious asset, they're not going to utilize that asset on the target unless it's pretty darn important. Because you could be looking at something else. So the fact that a rare and expensive asset is dedicated to these guys tells me that they're worth watching. Now behind the scenes, as they're tracking these guys, other stuff is going on in the command center. The tracking continues. The targeting cell is performing weaponeering, and then they're working on how they're going to strike the target. Now, the first thing you have to consider are available assets. What do you have in the area that can strike the target? It could be an aircraft loaded with a 2,000-pound satellite-guided bombs, a drone loaded with Hellfire, or something in between. You also want to look at the effects. Do you want to destroy a room, a floor, or the whole building? If the available systems can't meet the desired effects, we have to launch a mission. How long will it take to do that? Will the target escape before we can launch? Are there any civilian considerations? Is the target near a home? Is it near a school? Are the kids just getting out of school at the time that we can strike? So, if there are no weapons platforms in the area that can service that target without undue risk to the civilian population, do we attack with a larger piece?
Can I just say, if I was a Palestinian and these were my champions, I would kill myself. Holy shit. Israel paid the stupidest person to represent them. Destiny admitting he's been paid by Israel is not a surprise, but it's hilarious considering his recent performance. 1.1k likes. $4,000 likes. What do you mean? Yeah, of course. Ever since I started the Israel-Palestine arc, I've gotten so many connections. I've gotten like new payment processors. I get like a lot of... I'm hitting like every single anti-Semitic meme. The payment processors, the supporters. Didn't I use the word... Did I say Jew-lumni? Jew-lumni? Bro, how... There's a lot of people that will, there's a lot of organizations that kind of like send me revenue and they shoot me like talking points or whatever, or they'll like recommend me like books. They don't like control what I say on stream, of course, but they'll like say, and then I even do the like, well, it's not like they tell me what to say. They just give me all the talking points and I have an option. Just like, hey, you should take a look at this. And then, you know, and then they also sound like a decent chunk of change. I was like, well, if you're going to pay me, you know, like 30,000 new shekels or whatever, why the fuck would I not take? I get paid in shekels. Look at the material that you want me to read and repeat on stream. And also part of this is connecting me to kind of like a network of, they call them the Jew-lumni. It's like no shot alumni, but for Jews, I guess. And then in these Jew-lumni, imagine you kind of have the like the war room, okay? But it's not actually the war room. They call the Andrew Tate war room? Call it the new Yeshuv on Discord. The new Yeshuv? And in this Discord, there's a whole bunch of like really powerful Jewish people that I have access to if I want to chat with them about any particular issue. And Shapiro, obviously, and the other co-owner of the Daily Wire in there. And after my Candace Owens conversation, yeah, I reached in there. I was like, Ben, what the like, this lady is like slandering me on fucking Twitter. Can you do something about this? And he'll tap his Jewish contacts. He'll see how receptive I've been to some of the money that they kind of like funneled to me to like talking point shit related to Israel Palestine. And then he said, feels like I checked out. And then, yeah. Our boy Peter Coffin fell for it. People like myself get called a grifter, while people who literally go on their stream and admit that they take money and the results is the things that they say. Fucking silly. Remember Peter? The ball kicker guy? Kim Iverson, we debated her once or twice. Is this real? Is it real? Is this real? Who is this? Socialist MMA, 753. Like, not as many of those. Destiny admits he's paid to spread Israeli propaganda. I assume most people, the platform that is hardcore pro-Israel, are paid off. Zionism is intellectually, morally, and legally indefensible. This Nico guy got 7.6 thousand. Destiny blatantly admits on his stream that he's being paid, in one case, 30,000 shekels, to spew pro-Israel propaganda. Everything this grifter has said about Israel-Palestine since October 7th, the day he started paying attention, has been for revenue. Color me shocked. How much is 30,000 new shekels even worth? To USD, $8,000. Proof that Zionists don't just buy politicians. They also buy proof, by the way, They buy influencers to spout their propaganda. What did I call it? They call them the alumni. Like, people listened to this and thought this was... Message Ben, a network of, they call them the alumni. It's like, bro. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. I'm being told that seconds after this clip, he cut saying he was kidding, trying to verify that now. In some ways, it would be even funnier if he wasn't getting paid to be such a brainless Israel shill and get publicly spanked by Norm Finkelstein in front of the whole internet. Bro, are you serious? What? I'm being told by who? Do you have a fucking team like that watched the next 5 seconds of the clip? What are you talking about? Are you being told that alumni is not a real thing? My sources are telling me. I feel like I have like simultaneously the best and worst, rogue gallery on the internet. Oh, Hakakakakidu or whatever. He openly admits to being a cheap prostitute for hire. 2,000 likes. Oh, old friend of the stream, Katie. I said this on stream the other day, that I'm pretty sure Destiny is being paid for his genocide apologia, and the Destinoid in my chat said, paid by who? LOL, and left. Very funny. Oh no. I'd also like to point out that Zionists are paying Destiny. The fact that he's using a Zionist talking point to veer into anti-Semitic tropes to cloud the fact is part of it. So no, while this video is harmful to Jewish people are not the problem, Zionists are. I'm also insulted. $8,000? You think that's what it would... You think $8,000 is getting me to sell out for Israel? Really? The Hamas leadership, these guys are worth 8, 9, 10 figures. Supposedly, the one guy is worth like over $1 billion. You think I'm taking $8,000 to sell out? Although, to be fair, I'm also not valuing the true value is the alumni network of Jews that I'm now a part of. My God.
Guess how much the average bum makes a year begging? $134,000. You realize most homeless people own 2 homes, right?
They don't.
You ever been to a homeless shelter? It's like a nicer Equinox.
Do you know how ridiculous you
Oh
sound?
God, will you wake up? Hobos.
How much I want this guy to go on shows for real.
Gentrifying America. Why do you think there are so many homeless people in San Francisco? It's because they're the only ones who can afford it. Their prices. Not all the bankers, all the tech giants. They're the ones shopping at Whole Foods. They're the reason why you can't get that reservation in Nobu. It's people like you, ignorant people like you, that enable them to keep going. Guess how much the average bum makes?
The wild thing is, I really think that you're one of the most pro-Palestinian people out there. You're strict, consistent, and fair, and that's exactly what we need. I mean, I don't know if I'd say that, but... Wait, what is this? Hold on. Public Committee Against Torture in Israel et al., the Government of Israel et al., the Supreme Court of Israel. This is from 2006. What is the law regarding civilians serving as human shields? Oh, so, what your so this website, okay, the International Humanitarian Law Database, will contain almost everything relating to international humanitarian law and law of armed conflict. And the site also hosts on it a whole bunch of different legal decisions that other countries have made, or that other legal scholars have talked about, or that other large bodies like the UN have made. And they'll host a lot of that on the website for other people to view, because a lot of international law can be formed by the practice of other countries. So what you're linking me here is going to be a decision that was made by the Supreme Court of Israel. Okay, so what's said here might inform how people view international law, but it's not necessarily a source of international law, and it's not necessarily the leading interpretation of current international law. So what you're linking me here, I understand that Israel has decided that people taking part in being a voluntary human shield can be ruled as combatants. That's the decision of the Israeli government. That's not necessarily the decision of the world. That was one of the sources in this paper. They go over a huge number of specific use cases of voluntary. Oh, sure, I'm sure they do. I'm just saying that my understanding is right now this is like a debated thing right now. I don't know if it's like very clearly. I don't think there's any like one side is like prevailing here right now. Yeah. Wait, it gets even better with Katie. She's now saying that you were engaged in anti-Semitic dog whistling because she fell for such an obvious bait. Okay, I just watched this again, and this is so on point dog whistling anti-Semitic. I'm thinking maybe it's some crazy Dusty plot to set up people for believing in it. Either way, true or not, incredibly irresponsible in both directions. Also, I love how I told him it's anti-Semitic due to the shekels thing, and he said it's not, and no one does that, and in here he's literally doing it. I just can't. Wait, I thought Katie was mad because she said I never made anti-Jewish jokes. Isn't it? I thought she wanted this. It was a pretty good anti-Jewish joke. I thought it was pretty funny. I had a whole string of them. Isn't that what these people wanted?
Who is this person, by the way? The Katie person. I've heard her mentioned before.
She is an incredibly mentally unwell Tel Avivian Jew who is very, very far left and very mentally ill.
Okay. Is she I'm guessing anti-Zionist and all that?
No, she's anti-Jew. She's self-hating, like a motherfucker.
Interesting. Have you like debated her on your stream? Is that the reason that?
A few times, yes.
Is she on the blacklist now, or is she free to come on and discuss?
She used to be kind of on and off. I'll bring her on right now just because it's really funny.
Okay. That'd be good just to kind of see what's going on, and
Yeah.
As a representative of the Jalumni.
The Jew alumni. My favorite thing is some other guy responded, I think, and he's like, "Yeah, Justin, he mentions the. I don't know if I can't tell what's real or not. Some guy's like, yeah, he mentioned
this is like
Jew-Illuminati.
This is I don't remember when I was saying before, like fuck it, don't qualify your statements. It doesn't matter. Like this is what I mean. Like it just like. This is the quality of fucking enemy that you have that thinks that. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. I don't know what to say.
I think again, like we only see what's going popular on the internet, but I think there are a lot of people that see this. And I do.
It's like
I think there are there are a lot of people that see this and they're like, these people are fucking retarded. It happened with Assad. You just got to believe it. You got to believe. You got to believe, Dan.
Yeah, but there's big people that are like, isn't that Kim Iverson person?
Yeah, but she's literally, her brain has been rotted for 7 years. My understanding is she's one of the largest case studies. Yeah, okay. There's one of the largest case studies medically right now in researching how a person can live with so little white matter present in their brain. Okay, she's one of the dumbest motherfuckers on the internet, and has been for a long time. So, but yeah, I think people see it. Like this is such an obvious troll too. Like if you listen to, you're like, wait, did he say the Jew-alumni?
I know it's like
the Jew-alumni
that the Jews are going to be so sneaky and conspired to buy off a millionaire for $7,000 to have your talking points for 6 months, but then also have you talk explicitly about how it's done on stream. It's exactly what they wouldn't expect. Oh. That's why you do it. And of course you're paid in new Israeli shekels because PayPal doesn't do the conversion to US dollars either. You know how it goes. So that I can only spend them when I go back to Israel. It's to keep the currency. Question: Did you get the new role in the Jew Discord? like there's the one that gives you access to certain rooms, like where you can see all of the Goyim's the credit scores and everything like that? Did you get
No, because they lock it all off. You have to send a picture to the fucking mod to show that you've actually. They don't make you do a full-on circumcision, but you've got to like do a few cuts to prove that you're like dedicated to the cause. Yeah, I know.
That's
pretty cringe.
fucking annoying, man. God,
Pretty cringe.
Yeah, you know the funniest part of all this shit, the wildest shit. I've already told you before, like, man, how much do I want to say without getting in trouble here? I do agree. There's a lot of Jewish people that are in places of power, representative to the amount of population. That's no fucking doubt. That's not a conspiracy. That's just true. However, the conspiracy is that they're all working together. Now, granted, I'm not to that fucking level or anything along those lines, but I'll tell you that anytime I've ever had to do any fucking business deal or buy something or sell something, trust me, the last fucking person I want at the end of that other deal is a Jewish guy. It's not like, oh, great, I'm buying something from fucking Shlomo. It's like, oh, for fucking Christ's sake, are you shitting me? Because I know I'm going to be sitting there getting fucking nickel and dime the whole way. The idea that I'm getting like some sick fucking poggers deal because there's a Jewish guy at the end of this fucking thing, trust me, okay? I'm going to be much happier if it's like a Franklin Stevens that I'm buying a car from than like Shlomo McEpstein any fucking day of the week. And that's a goddamn fact. So,
well,
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
I know you're just trying to throw us off your trail.
I'm not good enough, man. So is this person going to come on? I would kind of like to
Katie?
see the fireworks. Yeah.
No. And I'm leaving like
No?
40 minutes out. No, I don't even know if we debate again after our last debate. I'm not sure.
Why is Dan so anti-Semitic? You know, it's just built in, you know, self-hating and all that shit.
My God.
Are we going to be hanging out with X, Steve? Me and you know, the two of us together?
Good question. I don't know. I messaged him. He
You know.
said he's in Miami.
Yeah. So is he down here permanently or what?
Oh, I don't know. He's been... Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, and after my Candace Owens conversation, yeah, I reached in there. I was like, whoops, he's a nomad. He just kind of moves around, you know?
I feel you.
Well,
Yeah.
true.
It's kind of wild how many people, like, clip that. I'm even looking at what's on your stream right now. Is Dan in the fucking Discord? Fuck DGG, bro. You guys are always trying to throw me into this shit. Oh, man.
Give me a minute and 20. I'm watching this. Hold on.
Okay.
And after my Candace Owens conversation, yeah, I reached in there. I was like, Ben, what the like, this lady is like slandering me on fucking Twitter. Can you do something about this? And he'll tap his Jewish contacts. He'll see how receptive I've been to some of the money that they kind of like funneled to me to look at like the talking point shit related to Israel Palestine. And then he said, feels like I checked out. And then, yeah. Are we good? Is that enough for a clip? No, I didn't talk to anybody about Candace Owens, you retard. Why the I do that? No. Hey, listen, I feel like you should include some of the likes and stuff on the bottom of these tweets, but... And after my Candace Owens conversation, fuck it, actually. We're throwing it up.
What are you throwing up?
You can't tell people to kill themselves on Twitter anymore. Can you say I would kill myself on Twitter, or is that against the rules?
What are you... You're trying to do like the Winston Churchill? Like, if I was your husband, I'd drink the tea type of thing?
No, I just want to post this and I would say, if I was a Palestinian and these were my champions on Twitter, I would kill myself.
I don't think that's... You know, I would not post that, personally, if I was...
I'm not asking if you would post it. I'm asking if it's against the rules, you fucking moron.
how much do you enjoy having your Twitter account? Is what I would ask you.
I would enjoy it quite a
when you
bit.
post. Okay, well, perhaps you might want to do things that increase the longevity of its lifespan, perhaps, and not, like the squeaky wheel gets the grease and all that jazz.
Oh, you're right. I got a much better idea. Hold on.
Yes, gotcha. Let's just.
What'd you do today? Anything fun?
No, nothing fun. All day I was doing grouting and working on my bathroom.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dan the construction man.
How bad was this tweet that you just did? Let's click and see.
Not even bad.
Oh, yeah. Perfect. Yep.
I didn't make any direct threats. I didn't say anything. That's fine. That passes.
Wow.
But that passes.
Benzos are gonna kick in. They're gonna save me.
Yeah.
You love living on the fucking edge, don't you? You really do.
Better than living on fire.
There we go. You're gonna need like an entire fucking IDF brigade if you go to Israel as your fucking security team.
Why do you say that?
I don't know.
Are you
Dude,
implying that they would kill me just for my freedom of speech online?
Yes. You know who I think I'm most disappointed with? Not that I'm like super disappointed with any of the people that like posted this and believed it, but I think I do hold people on the left to a higher standard.
Big
Don't you?
mistake.
I think that's fine to do. Like if you're real, is that a big mistake, you think, to hold people on the left to a higher standard for like retweeting like obvious bullshit?
Depends on what you mean by on the left.
Like Peter Coffin.
No, he's far left, tanky, retard. These people are literally Nazis, okay? You know how leftists... You ever heard the term projection? You've heard that, right? You know, leftists always say that the liberalism gives way to fascism. Like, they'll say that over and over again. I don't know if you know this, but in the history of the world, okay, it's the communists that worked with the Nazis, and it's the liberals that defeated the fascists. It's exactly the opposite. It is Molotov-Ribbentrop or whatever the fuck. It was the deal that the Soviets made with Hitler to cut Poland up. It was the KPD and the early Nazi Party working together to overrule and take over and defeat the Sockdems in fucking Germany. It was America and the liberal world order that came in and defeated the fascists. This idea that like liberalism gives way to fascism, when you can see it online, it happens today. It's funny, the Red-Brown Alliance with fucking Hassan amplifying Nazi accounts to fucking shit on me. Like, history it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. Okay, I hate these people. But no, I have no. When you say like the left, like I don't think center left people. Apparently, center left people just don't use the fucking internet. I don't know where the fuck they are. Do you know where are center left havens on the internet? Do you have any fucking idea? I have no idea.
We're on Facebook.
Oh, I don't. Yeah, is that where they are?
We're looking at cat photos. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. I'm also starting to, now that I'm not doing ultra heavy research, okay, so I've kind of moved off the Israel-Palestine shit, although I'll still do debates on it. But bro, I feel like if I was a Jew, if I had to hear one more time, like anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are totally different, I feel like that's just like the Jew-Arab version of white people being like, yeah, well, I can say the N-word and it's not racist at all. It's like, it feels like the same type of conversation.
I mean, we talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but like, real question: if you had to define Zionism in one sentence, what would it be for you?
Are you asking me personally?
I'm asking you.
Me personally? Zionism
Yes.
is the belief that Jews should have a state.
Okay, so if you asked like 10 Jewish people randomly in America that question, what do you think the responses would be, percentage-wise?
My guess would be that 7 of them would give my definition.
No, you're misunderstanding. I'm not saying
Oh,
how
what?
would they define Zionism. Basically, you would say, if you ask 10 Jewish people, hey, should Israel exist or something like that, what do you think the 10 Jewish people in America would say?
Across all demographics, my guess...
Jews in America, yeah.
Yeah, I know, you fucking retard. But if you ask me 20-year-old Jews on college campuses, it's going to be way different. But if you mean across all the age demographics and all the geographic... In the United States of America, I don't know. My guess would be between 6 to 8 of them would agree with that. Maybe a little more.
9 or
Maybe 7
higher.
and 9. You think 9 or higher?
90%, yeah. That's a rough thing to say, to ask like a Jewish person and say, hey, do you think Israel should exist? Like, and for them to be like, oh no, definitely not. It's like, well, okay, well, where would you like the Jews to go? Because I mean, that's the next question. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's definitely a way to say it. It's like the new way to say it, I guess. Like there was for a while people using like thugs as like a way of doing that. Like there's like Zion. Like I don't like Zionists very much. Like oh, okay, well that's like kind of 90% of Jews, but you know you're not racist towards Jews or anything. Just
Also, the characterization, and I don't know if I don't know if I was being a Republican for so long that I get like this weird sixth sense for like weird racist stuff. Did you see my debate at all with Jank? Do you know Jank from the Young Turks?
Yeah.
That sounds like
Yeah, I saw the debate. Yeah.
I wish I had a clip of this on hand. But when he's like talking about how Israel wages war against the Gaza Strip, and he's like, when the IDF murders innocent Palestinians and they love to see them fucking die, they love to kill innocents. And I'm like, this feels kind of weird, bro. Or when I'm arguing with people and I'm like, you understand that for like a strike cell, you know that there must have been like 5 to 10 different people at least and a lawyer that probably signed off on this particular debt. You're saying that all of these people in the IDF just said that they want to murder 4 innocent children for no, and the other person I'm talking about, like, yes, they did. Yes. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that feels a little strange. That's a really strong statement to make, but okay. It feels a little weird, but all right. Yeah.
I don't know, like, it just has to be that like Jews have become successful, I guess. I don't know, like that's like and there's not that many of them. That's it. Like there's not a lot of conspiracies about like I guess Chinese people. Like you know, they're pretty high IQ.
You want me to give you a
success, but
here's a huge macro world take. Get ready. This is probably wildly ahistorical, and this might be wildly completely fucking wrong, okay? Because I'm gonna also pull from there's a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel that everybody fucking critiques for different reasons. But one of the arguments that the author makes in the beginning is that if you were an early like nomadic people or tribal people or whatever, if you were incredibly successful at hunting, you got punished harshly for it. And I think the example he gives is it might be Aboriginals in Australia, but basically if you were really good at hunting, you might hunt into extinction all of the beasts of burden on your particular landmass. And if you kill all of them, when your people upgrade to where they're able to actually use beasts of burden to transfer large things around, when you start agriculture, you actually fucked yourself. You become a victim to some extent of your success. And one of the interesting things that I've read about Jews, about your people, is that after the destruction of Israel, after the fall of Kingdom of David, after Rome and everybody else basically fucked you guys in the ass, that Jews were kind of like, okay, well, we don't get a country anymore. We'll kind of meme about what's the stupid thing you guys say tomorrow in Jerusalem or some bullshit. There's some saying. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, during Passover, you say next year in Jerusalem if you're.
Whatever dumb shit like this. So basically, Jews resign themselves like, okay, well, we're never gonna have a country. Fuck us. So we're just gonna like try to learn to thrive in every other country that we're in, and we'll figure our shit out that way. So things like whether it was usury, like banking stuff, education, close cultural connections, whatever the fuck, that Jews were basically like, okay, well, we're gonna survive this way. But when you look at the other people that were far more successful, like undoubtedly, if you start at the 1900s and you go earlier and you compare like Muslim conquest to Jewish conquest, it's not even fucking close. Arabs and Muslims, the Caliphites, the Ottoman Empire, these massive caliphites spanning so much land, so many people. You had the Islamic golden age of art, literature, math, all of this success. And you know what they say? Great times create weak men. And you get into this world to where I think that when these countries and these people become so successful, the success kind of defeats them, or I guess it weakens them in a way. And then now you move into modern day where, now I'm getting more specific. When the Jews get their own country in Israel, they're like, oh shit, it's time to get fucking real. We've got our own place now. We have all of these positive like cultural things. We can ship money from all over the fucking world to our people that have survived in every other country, despite people trying to kill us over and over again. And now we've got like all these Western backed ideas. We've like trained in like the fucking World War I, World War II militaries. We're going to go to Israel and fight. And all the Arab armies are like, okay, well, we've had like a caliphate spanning however fucking long for however many fucking hundreds of years. We don't know how to promote generals. We don't really know how to do battle tactics. We really don't know how to do fucking anything except lose over and over and over and over again. I kind of wonder sometimes how much that played into the narrative of like everything that is formed today. That's an incredibly macro overview, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's a combination of success, small amounts of people, and also the illusion of exclusivity. Like, I guess with other religions, there's a lot of what do you call it, proselytizing, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's not like a big thing in Judaism. So maybe there's part of that, like, oh, they're better than us or something like that. I don't fucking know. It's all cringe shit, but yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
So what's the next light subject that you're going to move on to? Like, is there anything possibly more inflammatory and like murderous that you can possibly like start? What could you possibly cover next that would make more people hate you? That's what I want to know.
Well, the next big thing is going to be the election stuff, I think.
That I feel like that's a step back as far as death threats.
I mean, I don't know if
You
anything.
need to take this to a 12 out of 10.
I don't know if
We're only at
anything.
11 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't know if anything is going to match Israel-Palestine in terms of people getting upset about shit. Oh shit, hold on. Hey Destiny, I've been wanting to get more into politics recently, and I've always agreed with the majority of your takes. In your opinion, what's the best way to start researching for a new topic that you're looking to get educated on? Boken Ron, thank you. I don't know, read the wiki and then start Googling articles.
There really isn't much that's more inflammatory, right?
I think this is probably it. This is probably the apex of inflammatory topics because you're fighting against like the entire Muslim world, right? Plus all the crazy hardcore lefties. So you're fighting against like a huge number of people, plus the people that are really
far
active.
On the right, super far right, super far left.
Yeah.
You know one thing I was wondering, right? And this is interesting. So like, I was saying like there's not a lot of conspiracies about like Chinese people, right? Even though they're like, China as a whole is very rich, very successful. Chinese people have very high IQ I think they do at least, on average. Is it like when you get to a certain point, does there naturally become divisions inside of your culture that like, does a culture want to split? Does that make sense? Like, how do I put this?
If I'm understanding what you're saying, I think it has to do with like facing a common enemy. When you're of a small enough size and you've got like people that you're fighting against, you're like super united. When you get big enough, then you kind of like turn against yourselves because you become so big.
Like
there's no external
that's how
threats.
it feels, right? Yeah, like it
Feels
gets
that way
to
in
a
the
certain
US.
point, and it's like, now they're the enemy. Like I guess, yeah, even in the U.S., it's like half the country is the Republican, dummies, and the other half is the liberal fucking bleeding heart, college liberal arts students, right? So like that's like the division we have here. Is that just naturally always going to be the case that in any type of environment of any size and value that there's just going to be splits that are created in it, I guess?
I don't know. It feels kind of annoying if that's true, but
the other thing is it feels like the most effective way.
Sure, I still think Destiny's openness about him not reading isn't a good look regardless of others. Hey, dip fuck. I've read more than literally every single other fucking retard in this space. Off yourself. That I have never encountered a person in a debate who is so well read that they bury me on a topic. There might be like people in academia, or there might be students or people that read more than me on particular topics. I have not encountered a single one of them in a debate. If you are well read on a topic, you don't establish that by going into a debate and saying, I've read 10,000 books. You do it by showing your knowledge. If I'm able to ascertain or figure out situations better than other people who supposedly read 20, 40, 50 books or whatever, you should probably stop reading and go do a comprehension course or get blackpilled on IQ, go take a test, realize that it's 97, and then just stop debating people because you're going to be too retarded to ever succeed in the arena, okay? Get the fuck out of here with this bullshit. If there's like a book I need to read, or if there are books I need to read on things, I'll do it. But I don't just read Wikipedia. I'm literally streaming every single day. You can see me read news articles, you can see me read papers, you can see me read these fucking UN reports, you can see me, fuck you, okay? And suck my dick, okay? Because my cum will be the smartest thing that's ever been in your body, you retarded fucking moron. Sorry, what'd you say?
I talked to Rem today, and he said we were having a conversation about, philosophical stuff, because that's the type of stuff I like to talk about. And he said that we should try to tone it down on the bad language. And I agree that,
Which
there was
bad
a time
language?
that, like saying retarded and autistic and things like that. We've gotten too fast and loose, and I think that we should make a conscious effort to set an example for our audience instead of going
True.
full bad,
Okay.
We can do better. But
agree.
here's the real thing. I feel like we can come up with better insults that are also more damaging. Like, for instance, no, this is actually bad. And I was going to say bonus chromosome, but then I realized I'm just doing more of the same. But that does sound better, though, right?
Bonus chromosome?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we saying the same thing, though?
Yeah, I that's why I was just saying, like, that's actually not better in that case.
I've tried this. Find me a replacement for retard and we can do it, okay?
I'm gonna. It really flows off the tongue, and I understand that. I just, yeah, I don't know. There's definitely stuff out there. We need like we need a Reddit thread with suggestions where we can go through them and really see what flows naturally.
Yeah.
SPED doesn't count either because that just is shorthand for special education.
Also, some of those feel worse to me. I don't like SPED feels bad. My kid
Yeah,
had
it
an
does.
IEP for a while because of the speech stuff, and saying like special education feels like mean. But like, I don't feel like if I say like retarded, I don't know, that doesn't feel mean. Maybe if Nathan actually had Down syndrome, maybe I'd feel different. I'm not sure.
Wait, well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. What was retarded? Was that Down syndrome?
I think it was all sorts of anything that would cause developmental delays, basically.
Like, would you call God, this like 40 years ago when they used the word retarded, like a lot, like that was the medical word. Like, if you had autism, would you be retarded?
I have no idea. I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I mean, to retard means literally to slow down, right? Delay.
Mm-hmm. So they might be like, oh, they had retarded speech or something, but they
Or
wouldn't
like
be
mental.
like, oh yeah,
well, I don't know if you say
Steve's a
speech was-
retard. They wouldn't be like that.
I think it would be like mental retardation, right? Mentally retarded. You're mentally delayed.
Sure. Okay, interesting. Man, it just, I'm still kind of sad. I expect more from people on the left. I honestly do.
We should have a day off stream where we just come up with a ton of fucking fire insults.
Yeah, that would be good.
Like, there's like you're a few fries short of a Happy Meal. Like, I bet we could think of a ton of things like that.
That is a good one. The problem is remembering them all.
No,
you
but
know?
like we should come up with new ones. You're like a
new
three-wheeled
ones.
car, or you're like just like random. We should just like go through like a million things,
we could come up with some bangers too.
We could.
We've done it.
You're,
For
you're like a
sure.
grill with no charcoal. We just write down like 500 of these.
That's already good there too, and it hurts. That cuts deep. Like,
Yeah,
you're having
we
a
gotta
debate
figure
with
these
someone,
out. Yeah.
and you're like, Norm, you're just a fucking grill without the fucking charcoal.
Boom,
You're
yeah.
all substance.
We just need
and
to make-
no facts. It's like, oh my god, ouch, that hurts. But we
We
can
should
do
do that.
better. Yeah, I don't know if we don't need a day. We can come up with some good ones, but a 3-cylinder engine. I mean, I think BMWs have a 3-cylinder. Isn't the i8
Three-cylinder.
three-cylinder?
That's too complicated. People don't even know what a cylinder is. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
Don't
but the
go.
i8 is like a supercar. I think it's a 3-cylinder, like half electric, half. Man, maybe it's not. Fuck.
Your imbecility is on display. You're like a bald man with no hat.
Yeah, that's good.
You're like a beanieless Tim Pool.
Too
You're
niche.
a toupeeless Trump. We need to get it. We'll write down like 500 of these. We can do these.
Too. That one's too political in nature. Do you know what I was thinking about, dude?
Yeah.
I feel like with the knowledge that you have, or at least even with the knowledge I have, I feel like you could write a fucking book on like overthrowing countries.
I don't think so.
I think so. I feel like they're like at this point, it's like, okay, first step, you find the people on the far right and the far left, and you divide them in half by saying they're not extreme enough, right? And then you create those guys, and
The
you
issue
make
is
the
that,
even
like,
more extreme ones.
the issue is
it's like and you tear it apart.
we
from
can
the
do
inside.
really, really, really good analysis in retrospect, but figuring out what things are going to look like in the future is like transactional analysis. Like, it feels like you can figure it out, but in reality, you might have no fucking idea how a particular thing turns out.
I mean, doesn't it feel like other countries, and even us, when we fuck with people, that we're not fucking with like, and I say us as in like the United States, but we're not fucking with like, oh, we're fucking with Democrats. It's like we're fucking with like, you know, the extreme far left party or the extreme far right party of some country, and giving them funding. It's never like, oh yeah, we're giving funding to like the Democrats of Nebraska. It's like we're giving funding to the radical, free, whatever, you know, government for a new Sudan. And it's like, okay, what are these guys about? Oh, I see, they're a little wild. Like, that's what we always do. And it seems like when people fuck with America, it seems like they're doing the same thing. It's not like they're elevating fucking Don Lemon, you know, they're elevating like the Jackson Hinkles and the people like that. Like, is that literally just what we do?
I mean, but like, how do you actually do this? In practice, it's probably a lot harder than just
Money, I think. Like, that's it. It's literally just money.
Well, I feel like if there's a book on this, I feel like it's probably already being circulated at the Kremlin between all the KGB assets or the CIA. So,
I guess. I don't know. As I was saying, I'm still disappointed. I have like more hope for people on the left. They're supposed to be like, I guess I would say the people on the left, like, okay. Of scientists that are out there, how would you say if you polled 100 average random quote unquote scientists in America, how many of them do you think would be Republican versus Democrat?
when you say scientist, are you including like sociology researchers, like people that work in
I guess
anthropology?
STEM.
STEM is probably going to skew a bit more. I don't even know. I honestly don't know.
You think STEM is going to skew conservative? Really?
No, I don't. I have no idea. I truly have no idea.
I was going to feel like there was going to be a heavy leftist.
Because the thing is that like you can say that like STEM.
Like, look at like Twitter employees,
Yeah, I know.
or
Yes,
shit like that.
congratulations. Yeah, that's where I was going. Yeah, for people working in computer science, if you're working on like the West Coast and shit, you're probably going to be more likely to be left-leaning. Yeah. So I don't know. I have no idea.
So if it's like, yeah, I don't know. Where was I going with this again? Yeah, so I expect more from people on the far left because I'm expecting that you've gone to college, that you've been educated. Like, not that, just to be clear, the fact that you're like a handyman or a carpenter or a plumber does not take away from your very valid, real opinions on how America is. And they are valid and they should be listened to. That said, I don't know. I feel like if you've studied for 4 years, especially having to do with something with like political science or something, to just retweet such obvious disinformation just because it suits your narrative is just, I don't know, it just seems fucked, you know? It's like, and the thing that bothers me the most is they don't care, of course, right? It's like they're not losing sleep, but it's just funny. It's like, haha, you know? I try to think to myself, am I a victim of doing this as well? And I feel like there's probably been times that I've been a victim of doing it, but I try, and I hope I'm not. Like, a good example of this is like, I feel like I've probably said, did Trump really think that a stealth fighter was invisible?
I think on that, I think he did. I do think he thought that.
Are we being right now not charitable to Trump? Or did he really suggest that
I don't think Trump wanted us to inject bleach in our veins. I think that was like him kind of like being hyperbolic. And if you listen to him talk, though, he doesn't really, I don't think he's really saying that. I think he was like asking a question about some dumb shit that he heard. But I don't think he wanted us to inject bleach in our veins. I do think he believes that stealth fighters are literally invisible, like Wonder Woman's planes. Yes, I do think that.
So you believe? Yeah, okay. I don't know. I mean, it's certainly possible, I guess, that he does. But I feel like that's probably how people on the right look at us when we make the same comparison to them. Like, dude, why are you retweeting this? This is such obvious bullshit. And they're like, well, why are you retweeting shit about Trump thinking a stealth fighter is invisible. Like, that's obviously not fucking true. He's not stupid. Like, or you know, I was about to say something else. You know, like, so I don't know. I think it's hard to get past our bias, but I'm still upset. I still expect more from people on the left to try and do better, especially when it's so fucking obvious of the shit, and they do it anyways. And it's just a disservice to anything. It's just like all political fucking football, man.
True.
There's
Wait,
no what?
have you ever heard of a race gun? Did we talk about this?
A race gun. There's two ways this goes. Either
Okay,
this
the
is
answer's
something
no.
that I
Okay.
don't want to talk
There are
about,
guns.
or it's
There are
something
like
that you
pistols.
shoot at the start at
There
a
are pistols
match.
that are literally like fucking like $4,000 pistols, and they are unbelievably godlike in terms of how they shoot. I got to fire one of these like a month or two ago.
Are you sure it's called the race gun?
Yeah, they're called race guns. They're
You sure someone's not just fucking with you?
unbelievable. The brand that I was looking at was, I need to order one. I haven't ordered it yet because that fucker didn't respond to me on Twitter to tell me which one it was. What were they called? It was a Staccato XC, I think.
The fucking John Wick meme gun? You're joking.
Is that what he uses? I forget. Oh, I think somebody
Dude,
did say he did.
Don't go fucking buy that gun. You don't need that fucking gun.
Wait, have you ever shot one of these before?
Yes, I've shot a Staccato. It's fine.
It's
okay.
not.
I mean,
wait.
It's a good gun.
It's not
What do you
okay. It
like
is
about-
like
what do you
I
like?
will outshoot anybody. These are unbelievable.
my
Oh,
God.
he hasn't. I don't think he hasn't shot one of these before.
Oh, yeah, I haven't shot the John Wick
Oh
gun.
my
Got
God.
It. Okay. Yeah, you can rent them if you want to just go try it in person. You can
I've already
rent it
tried
at
one
the
before.
range. Okay.
It's ungodly. My God. One day I'll figure out which one of these we're getting, and I will order it, and I will go. I need one of these
I
for my
mean-
trip.
It's like I don't understand like why people go fucking nuts over this thing. It's a 2011 pistol, right? Just like what? Like finally, it's like blinged up basically.
It's like
am I
the-
missing
for the-
something?
I was shooting like metal targets at like 25 yards with this, and it was like ding, 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 ding. Like the reset is flawless. The control is unbelievable. The way the gas is vented, there's like no recoil. It is just like the most unbelievably smooth shooting experience at huge range. It's just an unbelievably godlike pistol. It is unreal. Unreal. It's recoilless.
Okay. Well, the
It's-
reason why you know like a 1911 pistol, right?
Yeah, they're for losers. Wait, real quick.
No,
Steven
what?
donated $100 and said, just wanted to say I really appreciate your commentary on Israel-Palestine, and I'm looking forward to the next topic. Oy vey! Thank you.
Okay, you know like how a 1911 is like really heavy?
Yeah.
Okay. And normally that shoots 45, yeah?
Normally, yeah.
Okay, well, this is like a very heavy gun that it's
No, it's not just heavy. It's got vents to vent the
I
gases in the optimal
yes.
way to counteract the recoil of the bullet that it's
Oh
expelling.
my
It's not just, oh my
God.
God. We're going to have a shoot-off, Dan. Get your best
it's a-
pistol. We're
it's
going to
a-
compete.
it's a-
We're going to
it's
go
a
one-on-one.
pretty-
We're going to bet money on it, okay?
Listen to me. It's a heavy-ish gun that shoots 9mm. Yes, it's ported. I understand that, but the porting is not like free. That's not like, oh, free, awesome, poggers. That's not like free, like no downside that something is ported. When something is ported, it can have negative effects, and sometimes it does.
Like
One of
what?
the most common things it does is
Yeah.
not being able to cycle because it doesn't have enough back pressure. Okay.
Yeah, I only
That's one of
shoot
the most
federal
common-
9mm ammo, the cleanest, the best 9mm ever. I've never had a cycling problem ever on one of these guns. The one time I shot it.
Okay. I
And if you have an
right.
issue, you should carry 2 of them.
I'm just saying, with, I don't know. Aren't they really, really expensive? I mean, you're a fucking millionaire.
I think it's like
Millionaire. Who gives a shit? Go ahead.
$4,000. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Go spend fucking. You
I
might as
will.
well buy the John Wick signature edition as well. Go ahead.
Is there really a John Wick?
I am 100%.
People
there
keep
is,
saying
because-
the CZ Shadow. How much is this gun cost? Isn't this like a $600 pistol? How much does this cost? $1,000. This is probably a trash CSGO gun. I don't buy shit that I can buy in the eco round of CSGO, motherfuckers, okay?
Dude, you know, I think so. In the world, there's a lot of people that I hate. And I used to think for a while that the people I hate the most are open source people. because they're fucking obnoxious and everything is like that. But then I just realized that I think I hate gun people more, actually. I think you guys
True.
are actually the worst.
How am I a
Can you
gun?
just
What do you mean by that?
No, not you. Like the people in chat. Like, yeah,
Oh.
I'm actually a compensator. If you know what? I don't give a shit. Fucking take the gun and try it out in the mirror. Okay? I think they're the worst. Is there anyone worse? At least car guys are kind of chill. You know, like if you're like, hey man, I think I want to get like a Miata. People are like, oh yeah, Miata. That's a pretty fucking sick fun car to
Okay,
drive.
wait. Hold on.
What?
All of these communities are gonna have anal fuck people. Okay, car communities can be a million times worse than that. Okay.
I understand that, but I feel like it's at least a little bit.
Depending on like the community that you're in, people could catch you getting fucked in the ass and think that you're more gay if you drive a Miata than that. Like depending on the car community you're in, like people have very, very strong feelings about.
I don't. Listen, a Miata is a fun car to drive. I think that's pretty universal.
That's fine,
among all
and
car
anybody that
communities.
drives a car that cares about cars that has more than 250 horsepower is going to say that you're a gay guy for fucking driving one. Okay, that's the reality of the car people world. Okay. I'm just saying, every hobbyist community has their extreme fucking losers that make you want to offer.
No,
stuff.
I understand. I just think that there's like a higher percentage of them. Yeah, and I think the reason that it's so extreme with guns is because it's like such a serious thing to them. It's like, oh, this is my life. I gotta take it seriously. You know, like the amount of debate that's been had over like 9mm versus 40 cal or something like that of people that are never gonna leave their fucking living room and shit. It's got to be million entire. That's if you train ChatGPT just on that topic, I think that would take up like an entire fucking large language model. Like it would be unreal. So, but yeah, I think it's a meme that you're getting this gun. I think it's a tremendous waste of money.
Why? It shoots amazingly.
It shoots amazingly because it's a heavy gun that has a fucking compensator at the end, so it feels like it has no recoil, and it's shooting a 9mm load that's losing some of its power because some of the power is being used to deflect the recoil. That's why. You want to know what else
I think
is
the guy
shoot
that's
amazing?
getting...
Go find a fucking 1911 that shoots like a 22. That'll feel amazing too.
No,
You'll be able to
but
fire.
then I'd have to be shooting a 22, and then I'd have to be shooting a 1911. Okay, both huge mistakes.
I think a 2011 isn't that amazing either, honestly. I think like probably the P365, the gun you already have, is probably one of the best guns that there is, period. If you like that gun, they make a full-size version of it. Just the magazine alone on that gun makes it probably one of the biggest advancements in gun shit in like the last 5 years. No, not even like 10 years. Like the P365, I think it's called the X Macro. That's one that's like a 20 round. You'll shoot that, like that gives you a full grip on that, gives you a larger slide barrel, the whole thing. Like, yeah.
Okay. I'll keep it in mind. Okay.
Wow, I'm getting one guide right now.
Yeah.
Whoa, you know, and that's the thing. That's the thing. They come out of the fucking shadows to one guy you. They come out of the fucking shadows to one guy you. They're doing it. I'm thinking about responding right now. You know, we've brought some of these guys. This reminds me. Do you remember? This is a legendary meme, and this is actually why I have no faith in humanity. Also, do you remember? Many moons ago, there was a time that you had first got your P365 SAS, and you said, you know what? I want to put an optic on this, and I said, Steve, you can't do that. You got to get the slide milled, unfortunately. And there was some fucking dipshit in chat. It's like, you're wrong. They make an adapter. And I said, no, they didn't. And he said, Dan, shut the fuck up. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. They make an adapter. I said, they don't. I've looked into it. I know what I'm talking about. Anyways, at the end, this fucking retard, sorry, I wasn't going to use that word. This fucking person was wrong. They didn't make an adapter. And instead of being like, you know what? You're right. My bad. Actually, they don't. I was wrong. He was like, LOL, trolled, LOL. It just, you know what it does? It makes me want to fucking hurt people. That's what it does.
That's why you need a Staccato XL, so you can fight all of these people with perfect aim, Dan, and no recoil.
But here's the thing. They weren't trolling. They were just a fucking moron that got called out, and that's all they could do at the end was say, LOL, troll. But at the end, they knew that they were wrong. They got outplayed and outsmarted by a 40-year-old geriatric man who still has his hair, by the way, mind you. I'm doing really good on the hair department. I looked at some other guys who are 40, not so good compared to me.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, listen.
What is this? It is this the end? Hey, wait.
What?
How we tell Lycan how we can do Discord calls, because I don't think either of us have any idea.
Edmund, thanks for the $70. How you can do Discord calls?
How can we do? You know how Ethan can do calls with people,
Bro.
And you can hear them on the stream,
yeah.
and Ethan can hear them talking, and then all that shit. How do we do that? Think. Use your big brain right now, before we hang up.
I mean, the easiest way would literally just be to plug a speaker into the computer and then point the speakers at us and play.
But when that speaker feed back into our microphone, and then the audience would have double audio?
No, it doesn't matter. Because whatever feedback is there, it would be covered up by the actual audio itself. It's not like people are going to hear the feedback over the actual audio, because the audio itself is going to be played on stream. So it'll be fine.
So basically you think it all happens at once. So all we really need is like one of those, literally like the old school like Cisco WebEx like conference speakers in the center type of shit. Yeah. Wait, but here's the real thing. How do we do calls? What device calls and hangs up, and where's the microphone
Discord?
feeding in and feeding out? Saying Discord, I understand the program we're going to be using. I'm asking you how. Imagine me and you sitting at the fucking table.
Yep.
You have your fucking gay iPad, and I have my not gay laptop.
Yep.
Okay. And we want to call, I don't know, Zionist Supreme or whoever the fuck it is that's paying you. Okay.
Yep.
How are we doing that?
What do you mean? Lycan would call them on the computer.
So Lycan is going to call them from his Discord account.
Yep. That's why he's the producer, right?
Huh. Okay.
And then on Discord, he would set the audio input to the same thing using the microphone. And then we'd get the audio output, and yeah, boom.
All right, fine. Thursday at 6 p.m., correct? First episode? Well, like second episode.
We'll see, but yeah.
No, don't. Hey.
I'll be here. I will be
You'll be
here.
there.
I
I'll be
live
there
here.
too.
This is my house. I
understand.
live here. I live here. So I
You
will
don't
be
live in the
here.
studio. First off, lower your voice. Don't talk to me like that. Okay? I'm just confirming in a slightly more aggressive voice than I normally would. Okay? Just to confirm. Okay? I just want to make sure that the 6 doesn't turn into an 8 or
I put it on my schedule. I'm here. It's on my schedule.
All right. Thursday, 6 p.m.
Dan cast. I wrote it.
I will be there early for testing and everything else.
Okay.
There is no guest. The guest is going to be August having us figure shit out. Holy fuck, Dan is fucking annoying.
Okay, I love you. I gotta go. Love hug. I love you though. Okay, tomorrow though,
new.
or
he's new. Breadcrumb.
He is new. Stay safe. I love you, babes. Bye.
Bye.